do is, they don't, they make it hard. And I think rightfully, it's not something that's an easy certification to get. And I think it also makes that certification so much more valuable and important because it is difficult to get. And it's not something people can just kind of, fill out a form and sign up for, and they're a B Corp, So I think it's a really good thing that it's hard to get.
Glenn, we have a question for Jen about how you work with clients and how you find them.
So an example of how we reach clients is one way is my colleague Rebecca, I think, we knew about Hugo and Hoby and reached out to Ben and companies like his that are interested but really just don't have the capacity to do it themselves. And Ben, you heard from Ben how long it took them to actually get started on the process and took the time to deal with it. And what you said about being excited to go through that questionnaire, I love hearing that. I think a lot of CEOs are so intimidated by it that they just get overwhelmed because you're answering over 200 questions, somewhere between 200 and 250, depending on the size and industry of your business. And each question is not just like a yes or no question or fill in one word answer. There's always very detailed, basically they're trying to gauge your level of activity in each area. And so there will be descriptions from you don't do something and then like a socially or environmentally responsible practice at all. So you do it incredibly, incredibly rigorously in ways that, as much as Ben was doing, he might have identified through that things that he could be doing. So you have to read through every question in detail and then remember what it is you have to follow up on and put together the documentation for them. So our marketing is a combination of finding companies that we think should be certified B Corps based on what we know about them and reaching out often cold emails to personal introductions to referrals from current clients. It's a variety of things, but it's been pretty organic at this point. We're starting to increase our social media and more broad presence. But as I mentioned, I in particular in the beginning, I've been very focused on Connecticut, as I still am. But these personal networks and events like this are really helpful just to get the word out.
There's a question about how many hours total to in Ben's estimation have you spent on the process, and I guess an extension of that would be, do you have any recommendations for how to kind of chunk it up for someone going through it to make the time?
That's a really great question. Man, I can barely keep track of how many hours, probably start to finish. I will say that so one of the reason I think that working with someone like Jen, or, in our case, we had an intern that knew the background, but you as a owner and, CEO or, business owner, you're so busy that it is one of these things that quickly can it just keeps going to the back burner. So I do think having somebody that's, either dedicated to doing it or as an owner, just, you don't have to do it all at once. So, one of the reasons we're still doing it is because we did it slowly over the summer. It's 250 questions. We'd kind of take on 10 or 20 of the questions per week and kind of dedicate, an hour or two during that week to focusing on those questions and answering them. I think that's a really good way to kind of start, is that, send yourself a calendar invite for, every week that you want to do it. The hours are hard to estimate, in part because our intern did a lot of the back work. So for example, to Jen's point, you might answer, we work with 25% of our supply chain is owned by, or is a woman or minority owned business, for example. But in order to actually get that data, we had to, you have to reach out to your entire supply chain and figure out, are they independently owned? Is the owner a minority or a woman? There's various things where you have to collect the data you might have checked the box, but in order to get certified, you need to go gather the information and make sure that it's accurate. And so a lot of the work is actually not just answering the questions, but figuring out what the correct answer is to the question. I would say another one is that we found was very sort of powerful, and also just I think it kind of elevated our business. There's lots of things that we say, we verbally say, but we don't actually have a written document that actually says it. So something like an employee like we created an employee handbook, for example, in part because of becoming a B Corp, because you put pen to paper on, what your policies actually are with regards to maternity leave and paternity leave, or, the fact that you are dedicated and have a commitment to work with local suppliers, which for us was a very big thing. But yeah, I mean, I think if I were recommending it to other people, I'd say take it slowly. Don't try to do it all at once, or work with someone like Jen, who's an expert at it, because someone who's done it before, and done it many, many times with people, they can know how to navigate the system. They know the right questions to answer. They know how to, collecting the data. It's all very time consuming. And so I think working with folks that are very good at doing that is a great way to do it as well.
Thanks, Ben. And just to jump in on the way we work timing wise, is we typically work with a company over a 4 to 5 week period for 2 to 3 hours a week on the phone, going through one section of the assessment at a time. And so, so then that's, so at a minimum 10 to 15 hours. And what that gives us is an idea of where you're going to come out score-wise, what types of documentation and materials you have in place, and what types of things you're going to need to either put in place operationally or create. And then we can help beyond that as well. But just to give you a sense as to the amount of time to put aside, and of course anyone could focus, if you had a full, week to 10 days of your own to focus on it, you could do that as well. But, we find that spacing it out, doing one category of questions a week works really well.
Thanks. This is a question that applies to B Corps as well as conscious capitalism companies in general. Has pursuing the certification chilled investors or potential investors? And how do you overcome any of that effect?
And have you been pursuing investors? Do you want to talk about this first, and then I can give my thoughts?
Yeah, I could give so we don't, we are a bootstrap company. We don't have investors, but I will say from, even in the news lately, even Wall Street, I would say, is identifying now that social enterprises and companies that do good are not just companies that you can feel good about. They're actually oftentimes more profitable and also more or better sustainable investments for the future. And so I think the fact that even Wall Street is identifying that, investing in green companies isn't just like a hippie thing to do anymore. It's actually like good for their portfolios, is a fascinating thing to watch. So I think whereas it might have 10 years ago, I think it's maybe the exact opposite now. And certainly I'm sure some investors don't have worries about that, in part because there can be legal language where like you can change your legal language so that you're, as a company, and your stakeholders, you're not just trying to maximize profit, you're also trying to do social and environmental good. So it protects the CEO from making decisions that does environmental good, that doesn't necessarily only drive profit. And so some investors might look at that and be worried about that type of language. Like, I know Allbirds made a big point of that. They're $1 billion company. They have lots of shareholders, and they made a big point that becoming a certified B Corp protects that mission, so that, leaders can't get ousted because they're making decisions of using more sustainable materials that don't just drive profit. So anyways, I think more and more it will become like nobody would be skittish about it. And if they are, they're probably not the right investor for you anyways.
Yeah, if I could.
You just said everything so perfectly.
Yeah, they're not the right investor. That's exactly what I was going to say too, because you don't want those people that are in, Monday morning and back out Thursday afternoon because they're, day traders or something. You don't want those people investing in your company anyway, because they're going to drive you, they're going to watch everything you do, and they're going to do, the market's going to react all over the place or whatever. That's just craziness, So you want the people investing in your company that care about your mission, care about what you're doing, and they're going to be there for the long term. They're not going to, they're going to be there 5 years, 10 years, 15 years from now, and they're not going to be jumping in and out and they're going to be just as excited, to some extent that as you are running the company, because they're involved in it too, and they're going to be loving that. So that's the key thing.
So I've got a question just generally for people on the call. What are the benefits of being a B Corp? What's been the most profound thing for you as an entrepreneur, Ben, or Jen, for you as a coach? What's the benefits?
I'd like to hear from Ben first.
Well, so we're not officially certified yet. So we, hopefully, I mean, we might find out in the next week or so that we are, basically on the cusp, and hopefully will be. I think, it's interesting for us as a company because so we're already members of 1% for the Planet, which is you dedicate to donate 1% of sales every year to environmental nonprofits. So in a lot of ways, we, we already sort of get quote unquote credit, right, as a benefit for being a company that cares about environmental and social good. I think if you went to our website, you'd see right away that as a customer, you wouldn't be, you'd understand that we are a company that cares about social and environmental good anyways. So in a lot of ways, just having a stamp, we're not becoming a B Corp just to be able to put a stamp on our website. That's really not what we're doing. To me, what it is the sort of the strongest assessment that is out there and the most rigorous assessment of what a socially conscious and environmental company should be doing and the criteria that they're meeting. So, we always looked at companies like Patagonia as North Stars for us of ways to run great companies. And I think if you look at what a B Corp is, it's that the kind of playbook for that. So I think, one of the benefits is really and truly internal to our company of having a third party assess our company of how good we are actually doing. And then, yeah, I mean, do I think that it will help our company by having that recognition as from a revenue standpoint and from a credibility standpoint? Big time. I think we might be I haven't looked it up, but Jen, I know we might be one of a handful of furniture companies in the world that have that certification. And I do think that's a big deal. And I think we're on the forefront of a big wave. So I think more and more companies will become B Corps over time. And to be one of the very early adopters of it, I think goes a long way.
That's great. I love hearing the internal metrics as a driving reason of becoming certified, which is for many companies. Other companies, are driven by if you're a consumer products company, that recognition of having that certified B Corp logo, since it's such a rigorous process, it is looked favorably upon by buyers. I know, companies that are going to try to get shelf space in Whole Foods, if they're certified B Corps, are going through the process. That doesn't guarantee it, but it's looked upon as favorable. More and more consumers are recognizing these products and actively purchasing them. And as the universe of B Corps grows, it'll be even easier for consumers to choose them over choosing another product. And it's the same with investors. It's not necessarily going to bring you capital to be a certified B Corp, but it's going to provide a signal to potential investors that not only are you built with a mission and with operational integrity, but it really serves as almost a due diligence screen. If you're able to get through this process, you are doing something. You are building your business thoughtfully and with a lot of integrity, which should play out well in the long term. So on the consumer, so those are a couple of reasons. And then on the B2B side, I, for one, as a B Corp, when I need a service, the first thing I do is I look at our website for certified B Corps called the Beehive, or look on B Corporation website and see, okay, who's a B Corp that's doing this? I would rather buy a service from a B Corp than not. So it serves as a screen for B2B business also. And then, just like Conscious Capitalism creates a community, B-Lab creates a huge community. It's a global community. It's deep. It is, important in a good market, and it's really important now. The resources that they're bringing to all of the B Corps are